Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome to Technical Root Tour. Today, let us learn about the inheritance. Let us learn about the inheritance. So this is it's from in the oops. So other name of this inheritance is also called as a relationship. Now, what is inheritance? Inheritance means acquiring the properties of parent class from the child class directly. Acquiring properties of parent class from child class directly. Directly, we can acquire the properties of the parent class data from the child class. Okay. To acquiring of these properties, we are going to use one keyword that is an extends. Okay. We are going to use one keyword for acquiring of the properties from the parent class to child class. That keyword is an extend keyword. Okay. Extends. Whether it is an predefined class. So acquiring of the properties of a parent class from the child class directly. So for acquiring of these properties, we are going to use one keyword that is an extends. This extends it is a predefined class. Okay, this extends it is a predefined class. Let us see a syntax now. Example. For example, here is an one class A, and here will be one more class. This is an parent class. This is an parent class. Or it is also called as a base class, or it is also called as a super class. Okay. And here it is a child class. Child class or an derived class or a subclass. Okay. Now, let's say this is an class A. This is class A. This is class B. This is a syntax. The B class is extending the properties of the A class. Okay, the B class is extending the properties of A class. This is a parent class. The A class is a parent class. This class child B class. The class B is a child class of the parent class, which is an A class. Okay, this is a syntax of the inheritance. Now let us see accessing the variables by using the inherit. How we are going to access the variables by using the interfaces from child class B class to A class. Okay. I have taken one class within the main method. Okay, I'm going to take one more class. I'm going to take in class A. This is a parent class. Okay, this is a parent class. Only we are going to access only a variable. First, let's see how we are going to access a variables. Okay, I'm going to take an int x is equals to 100, and this it is an instance variable, right? This is an instance variable. So I'm going to take one more static variable. I'm going to take it. Okay, static int y is equals to 400. Okay. Now I have taken in two variables within the class A, the instance variable and a static variable. Now I'm going to take in one more class, which is a child class of the class A. Okay. This child class is extending the properties of an A class. Right? This child class is extending the properties of an A class. That means this B class is also having an x value and x and y with the values of 104. Whatever the values is there in the A, same values will be holding the B also. Okay. So okay, behalf of that, it is having an value of A, variable A, and variable B will be holding an 500. Okay, where variable B is holding an 500. This is a child class, right? This is a child class. This class A is a parent class and class B is a child class. The child class is extending the properties of A class by using an extends keywords. As I told, we are going to use an extend keywords to extend the properties from parent class to child class directly. Okay, now let's print. So whenever we have an interface, sorry, inheritance, on those time, all of those time, you are going to create an object for the child class. Okay. Okay, this is an recommended. Okay, this is an recommended to create an object for the child class. Always we are going to create an object for the child class, not for the parent class. Remember it. Child class B is equals to new B. Now I have created an properties of the child class, sorry, object. Sorry, I create an object for the child class B by using an object reference B dot. I'm going to print it down those variables. B1 dot X, B1 dot Y, B1 dot A, when we and B1 dot B. Okay. So now if we create an object for the B class means first it is going to create an object for the B class. It will go for, okay, it will go for the B class, but it is going to store the data first. The parent class data will be stored first because when you go for an B class, there is an extends keywords of an A class. Then first it is going to for an A class and whatever the values is there, what are the variables or whatever it is there, it is going to first, it is going to store. Okay. First it is going to store. I'll explain here. Now b1 dot x means how much we are going to get an output. B1 dot x means 100. B1 dot y means 400. B1 dot A means 300 and B1 dot B means 500. These are the outputs I'm going to get it. Let's see now. See 100, 400, 300 and 500. What are the where I told in that way only it's printed. Now I'll explain how it is going to store. Okay. See, I taken and same code. Okay. First, when we create an object, whatever the things is there, let it be that one. These local variables will be going to store in the stack, right? We already know that the variables will be going to store in the stack, and then the objects which is going to create it there, that will be going to store in the heap memory, right? Is going to store in the heap memory. But their object references will be storing in the stack. Only the object will be going to store in the heap. Now here is a B. Here is a child class B because we are going to create an object for the child class only, right? This is a B class. Okay, when we create an object for the B class, now there is a B class. It is going for an B class, but B class is extending the properties of the A class, right? But the B class is extending the properties of the A class, and it will go and it will go back for the A class. Whatever the data is there in the A class, that data will be stored first into the memory. Now first here will be an A class. Inside the B class, there will be an A class. This is an A class. Okay. Whatever the data is there in the first, the parent class data will be loaded first into the memory. Here there will be an X and Y values. First it is going to store. X is equals to 100 and Y is equals to 400. Okay. First it's going to store these data, and once it is stored, whatever the data is there in the A class, and then it is coming for an B class. Whatever the data is there in the B class, it is going to store in the B class. Okay. A is equals to 300, B is equals to 500. It is going to store in the B class. Okay. In that way, it is going to store. Then the child class has an highest priority. Okay. The child class has an highest priority. The child class data will be printed. Okay. Sorry, the first child class will be going to store the in the data. Sorry, for the child class we are going to create an object, but the parent class data will be loaded into memory first it is loaded into memory, but it is going to have an B class child class highest priority, so it is going to print the first child class. Okay, this is how we are going to accessing of the variables by using an inheritance. Okay, the child class and the parent class. Let's see one more example based on this. I'll take one more class. I'm going to take a sample class. One more example, let's see. I'm going to take an class C. It has some variable int x is equals to 100, int y is equals to 200. Okay, this is a parent class. Let me create one more class, the child class D, which extends the properties of the C class. Extending the properties of the C class. This C class is having and two variables. I'm taking an one int A and int. One more time, I'm going to take an x is equals to 222. Okay. Now, I told you that and the child class is having highest priority. I'll explain here because the parent class is also having and the same data type of an int x is equals to 100, and then a child is also having and same variables of same data type. Okay, but the values are different, but the same is there. Okay. Now, which one is going to print it down first? Let me create an object. When we are going to create an object in the inheritance means the child class only we are going to create an object. Only for the child class we are going to create an object. The child class is D. D is equals to new D. I've created an object for the child class. Let me print now. D dot X. Now, if I'm going to add it down, d dot x means whichever the data is there in the child class, that will going to print here because the child class is having an highest priority. Okay, the child class is having an highest priority. As I told you that in the previous example, when we create an object for a child class, it is going to child class, but the child class is having an extents of an A class. Now it is going for an A class. First, it is going to print it on the A class data, right? See. Here also first it is going for an D class, but D class is having an extends features of the C class, so it is going to for a C class, but the C class is having an x is equals to, but it has to print this one, right? It is asked to print an x is equals to 100, but it will print an x is equals to 222 because the child class has an highest priority. Okay, because the child class has a highest priority, whichever the data is, whichever the same variables if we have and in the both the child class and the parent class means it is going to print the data of the child class. Okay, the same data, sorry, the same variable if we having in the both child class and the parent class means it is going to print the values of the child class. Okay, whatever the data is there in the child class, that data it is going to print if they have both child class is parent class is having a same variable. Now let's print other things. D dot A. D dot Y. D dot X. Again, I have taken a D dot X only. How many times I'll take and d dot x means how on that those times also it is going to print the value in the what are the values there in the child class only. It is not going to print it down the value in the A class. Okay, it is not going to print it down the value in the A class. Now let's print it down. See, see, I'm taken an d dot x two times. Let's think it's for and one for an child class and then one for an parent class, but it is printing only an child class data. Whatever the data is there in the child class, that it is only printing, not in the data in the A class, because the child class has a highest priority. For that, it is printing a child class data. Okay. It is printing a child class data. Now, how we are going to get and parent class data means how we are going to get the parent class data? You can use it down here in static. We are going to use it down as a static means on that time we can get it down the output or a data. That let's print now. That is in class name dot variable name. Sorry, class name is in C. Class name dot variable name. If you are going to give it a, I'm going to get an output of an X value, that is an 100. The data is there in the parent class. That data I'm going to get it down. C. Because in static is in class reference, that static is in class reference. Because of that, we're going to use an static keyword means without creating any object, we are going to get an output. Don't need to create an object for a static keyword. This is how we are going to access the data by using an this is how we are going to have an inheritance concept. It is an inheritance concept. These are the instance variable. This is a class variable. Static variable. This is a class specific. Okay. Now we are done with an accessing of the variables by using an inheritance. Let us see accessing of the methods. Let us see methods for methods. This is an I explained for an variables. Same example. Let's see for a methods. Let me take one class. Class K. This class is having some method public void yum1. Okay, I'm going to print it down as it is a parent class. Okay, now I'm going to take one more class which is a child class L, which extends the features of a K class, which is a parent class. I'm going to have one more method in the child class. Okay, public void f. Let me print it down a child class. Okay, this is an whatever the in the previous example I explained, this is for an variables. This is for an methods. The parent class having an one method which is an m1. It is proper printing of the data as a parent class, and the child class is also having one more method is an ef. It is also printing data as a child class. Okay. Now let us create an object for a child class. Whenever we are having inheritance, we are going to create an object for only a child class. I have created an object for a child class. Now let's print them by using an object reference dot m method. M1 method is there. And L1 dot whichever the method is there in the child class f. Accessing of those methods which are there in the child class and the parent class. Now this L1 dot M1 means it is going to print it down as a parent class. And L1 dot F1 means this method. It is going to call this method. Whatever the data is there in the F1 method, it is going to print that data. It is going to print as a child class. See now, how I told in the same way it is going to print it down. Parent class, child class. Okay. Parent class, child class. As already I told you that through inheritance, the child class object will be created first, but the parent class data will be loaded into the memory. First, the M1 will be loaded into memory. After that, child class data will be loaded into memory, but the child has a highest priority. The child class data will be having a highest priority. Remember these 3 points. I'll write it down. These 3 points are very important through inheritance. child class object will be created first. The child class, we are going to create an object first for the child class, and the second point is, but the parent class data will be loaded into memory first. Okay, parent class data will be loaded into memory. Okay, then the third point says that the child class will be having an highest priority. The child class data will be having highest priority. Child class data has highest priority. Okay, these are the 3 points. You have to remember these points. These 3 points are very important. Now I'll explain one more example on this only, inheritance only. In the previously I explained for accessing of the variables and accessing of the methods. This is for an accessing of only for the variables, and this is for accessing only for the methods. Let's combine both of them. For an accessing of variables and methods, combine both of them, and let's try to do one more example. Let's create one class. I'm going to take the class name as an number with the main method. Yeah. For that, let's have one class. Let's say the class name as an parent class. Class parent. That class is having an one variable char ch is equals to. Okay. And let me have one more variable in that class. Int a is equals to 10. Okay. This is a parent class. Now let me create a child class. Class child, which extends and features of the parent class. Okay, this class is also having one variable. Let me take one more variable, int r is equals to 10, and I'll take one more variable, float f is equals to 3.14 f. Let me have one method, public void fun. Okay, let public void fun. I'm going to print those things. We don't need to create an object for the parent class in the child class, because if you're using an extends keywords means all the whatever the data is there in the parent class is directly available for the child class. Without creating any object, we can access the data in the child class of the parent class data. Print a r f. Now let's create an object for an child class. Child c is equals to new child c dot whichever the method is there in the child class, that method. If I'm going to call that method means when we create an data for child, it is going for a child class, and it is going to extends the parent class. What are the data is there in the parent, that data will be loaded into memory, and again it come back for an parent child class. Whichever the data is there, that data it is going to load into memory, and it come for when we call an fun method, it is going to inside the fun method. Whichever the data I'm going to print it down, everything will be printed down. See now, see character and then some integer number, and it is also integer number. It is a floating point number. Okay, this is how we are going to use an inheritance for both of the variables and the methods. Okay. That's it. I'm going to end here for today. In the next class, I'll explain some more example on this inheritance, and let's go for an, there are types of inheritance also is there, and let's continue with that. These are the examples for an inheritance. I have explained and 3 to 4 example. You can practice some more example. It's very easy. Okay. Thank you guys.